what exactly is a privacy notice? So it's a document where basically explains. So it's essentially about informing the user and making sure you're compliant with your disclosure requirements and GDPR, right? And that's what the privacy notice is all about. A lot of times you'd hear privacy, a lot of times you'd hear privacy policy. A privacy notice or a notice is more of an accurate term, since you're serving a notice to the public. Although policy is also used in the general discourse, right? So please don't be confused. Coming back. So it's a document which basically explains how a website or organization will collect, store, protect, and utilize personal information, which has been provided to you or me as its user, right? Including Zoom. If you go and read Zoom's privacy policy, you would find it not that easy to read. It's an interesting read. I would urge everyone to do that. Now, which articles govern the disclosure requirement, especially when it comes to privacy notice, right? It's Article 13 and 14 of the GDPR. 13 talks about the information that you're supposed to give out to your consumers when you collect the data directly from them. And 14 talks about a scenario where you are collecting data, indirectly. So a lot of times you would see a host of information mentioned, like you would see in a privacy notice, as to like multiple sets of information being collected, because most of the time you would be collecting data directly and indirectly, right? So what do we include in a privacy notice? As I interview, you explain to them in clear and conspicuous language what kind of personal data do you collect on them, how do you collect this personal data from them, right? Whether you've collected it directly or indirectly, what's the consent mechanism, whether they've consented to it or not. You mention all that. Then comes the usage. This is very important. You need to sit with the tech team and the product team to basically understand how are they basically getting consent of the users, right? And then you basically sit with them and create a good consent mechanism, right? And then draft this. This is basically how we use your data, right? Then comes security. Now, security is basically how we protect your data, right? And this is basically all the technical and organizing measures that we discussed, along with privacy by design and all. Then comes storage and sharing, right? And then comes cookies, right? We're going to look at the cookie policy as well. But a lot of times it's a hit or a miss if you don't consider these steps before you're drafting any privacy notice, right? And that's coming from personal experience as well. You need to understand that a privacy notice is not developed in a week, right? You need to engage all the correct personnel of an organization before you will step on to start to create your first draft. This is how you do it, right? You follow these steps to understand how the business would collect or use personal information. Firstly, you would engage key employees. Now, key employees could be in HR, in operations, in the data science department, whichever the organization you feel would have key data, right? You basically go to them and you ask these questions, which are basically the type of personal information that the business would collect, the people from whom the business collects personal information, including where they reside. Now, the key personnel of each organization would have a repository of data, right? So that's something that you would have to basically ensure that you check where it's written the personal data, how business collects, uses, and shares personal information. Why is it collecting, sharing, using personal information, right? Then all the third parties who be basically the service providers of that particular business who are being given the access to the personal information, right? And then the electronic systems that handle personal information, very important. If you want to really play in data privacy, you need to understand basic data architecture and basic information about these data storage systems. Not going to go too deep into it, but that's very important. So information data flows, including data transfer, sharing, storage, exit, and destruction points. You would have to map all that out. For that, you would have to basically get on the field and do the work. And how the business would retain the personal information. If that number is not available, then on what grounds are they specifying how long will they be retaining the personal information, right? And then the security controls and safeguards that are deployed to protect personal information. I've already talked about that. future or anticipated personal information collection or use, whichever may be required by the business, right? Now, when you map all this information out, this will give you plethora of material to work with. You sit to draft your privacy notice or a cookie notice, right? Then, once you've collected all that data, you would have to basically also identify if you're basically handling any special category of data, which would be basically information about children, information about refugees and vulnerable population, information about information about maybe precise geolocation, information about precise IP address, religious section briefs, whatever is there in section 9 of the GDPR. It's an exhaustive list. So basically, of that sensitive information, right? Now, then you also need to review and understand how technology is employed, which is supposed to collect, store, process, use, and control, access, and share personal information. How will that technology be working? So, kind of a salesman understanding of how that process would work would certainly help in whenever you're sitting to talk the complex privacy notices, right? Vanshika, can you add someone? Yeah, sorry. And then the last step would be to identify if there is any automated personal information that is being, automated personal information processing that has been happening. These are few of examples, right? There would be electronic communication protocols, which would include, directly sending or, automatically sending some promotional material where no human intervention could be involved, right? Then cookies, flash cookies, pixel tag, or web beacons. We're going to talk about all these terms when we look at the screen note, right? And technology is used to track individual activity over time or multiple devices, which is really coming down to cookies, pixel tags, and web beacons. The GPS or your sensors, right? So once you've done all this, you would be having a very solid framework for you sit and draft the privacy notice, right? Now let's look at what exactly is your privacy notice. This is also very important. I kind of missed out on this. So this is basically how you're going to put your or display your privacy. So you're going to sit with your UI UX people. You're going to explain to them that we need an interactive method to basically get consent and for people to read privacy policy. These are good best practices that are also supported by the European Data Protection Code, right? So your privacy policy should not be hidden in the description of your website. Your website visitor must know that it exists, and thus it should be conspicuous and hard to miss, right? It is a good practice to remind your users whenever they are shifting or getting deep into your platform that you need to accept or you need to read the privacy policy, right? These are good practices.